Okay. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody, depending on your time zone. Glad to introduce you to Dr. Abhilasha Vyas, who is going to speak about cloud security. Take it away.
Thank you, Zoe, for inviting me for this talk, and welcome everyone for this session. I'm Dr. Abhilasha Vyas, working with Cloud Data Technologies as a cloud security vertical head. So my interest in my area is in working on cloud security. So today in this session, I will be discussing about the core problems which we are facing when we are sharing our data on cloud, or we are storing our information on cloud, or we are processing our information on cloud. So what kind of security services cloud service providers are providing to us when we talk about securing our information? So today I'm going to demonstrate the services from the Azure portal, Azure cloud service provider, that what all services we have, how we can monitor the resources which we have, how we can take care of the data which we are storing in our cloud. So what all services we have and what are the monitoring tricks we have, that we will be discussing. So before that, I just wanted to discuss one important point, that cloud security is not only the responsibility of cloud service provider. In cloud, we work on a shared responsibility model where cloud service provider and the customer both are equally responsible for maintaining the security of the information, security of the resources. We have certain models in which we work. Let's say if we want to take only software as a service, then we are giving more responsibility to cloud service provider. When we talk about the infrastructure as a service, more responsibility is of the customer. So what kind of responsibilities we have and what kind of information or security we are requiring? So we know that whenever attacker is planning any attack on the infrastructure, so in this scenario, attacker is trying to gain access to the machines, to the resources, to the data which we have in the cloud environment, and we want to save this access. We want to have a secure access to the resources which we have. So first, an important aspect is authentication and authorization. Whatever signal is coming in the cloud environment, we want to authenticate each and every signal. We want to verify each and every signal, and then we want to check the authorization, the roles and responsibilities which we have assigned to those identities. So the first and important point is authentication and authorization. We are doing this because cloud is working on zero trust model. Any signal, any access which is coming to the environment, we are going to verify each and every signal which is coming for accessing the resources in the environment. So that is the main task of cloud environment, that whenever any identity is trying to access any resource, trying to send a request for accessing any resource, we need to authenticate and we need to authorize that request. Another point is we require the encryption of the data. Encryption of the data at the rest, encryption of the data while processing, encryption of the data while transit. So we want to have encryption techniques which are available. We need to have certain techniques which should be provided by cloud service provider, and we want to have certain encryption techniques which we are using at the on-prem or at the physical setup. We want to manage the applications which we have. Now these applications can be SaaS application, these applications can be legacy application which we have at the on-prem. So we want to manage these applications, security of these applications, secure access to these applications. So if like the time which I have in today's session, I want to mainly concentrate on these points which I'm discussing: authentication, authorization, encryption, application security, and the fourth point which I'm going to discuss is the monitoring. whatever activities we are doing, whatever access we are doing, whatever applications we are accessing, how many sign-ins are happening, what is the access by the user, what kind of services are accessed by the user. So we want to manage the logs for each and every activity. That activity log will be provided by the monitor section. So what kind of monitoring services we have? And the last point which I'm going to take today is the compliance. We know that when we are working on a credit card information or any financial kind of a thing, we need to have a PCI DSS implemented. If we are working on any medical data, we need to have a HIPAA. So we have certain standards, we have certain regulations on which our organizations wants to follow. Now, how to check that all the settings, all the requirements which we have in the environment, that is as per the compliance or not. So Azure Cloud Service Provider is giving us the features for all kind of options which we have. So for authentication and authorization, we have identity and access, where we are going to manage this. So I'm just taking you to the platform. So if we are going to this platform, we have an Active Directory, which is helping us in managing all kind of identities which we have. Now, when I say identities, in cloud environment, generally we have identities of 3 types. One identity is cloud identities, which is generated by the Azure AD. Another identity we have is the guest identity. Now this guest identity, let's say we are working on any project and we want to ask other partners or consultant to come and work in our environment for that application. So we can invite them as a guest in our environment and they can work. So they will be giving as a guest identity. Also, we can have hybrid identity, or we can have these identities which are directory synced identities. So these directory synchronized identities are, just a minute. So we have third identity is directory synchronized identities. Now in these identities, Active Directory is giving us the facility through which we can manage the authentication of cloud identities. We can manage the authentication of guest identities and also the directory synchronized identities, which are synchronized from the on-prem. And for the synchronization, we have a service which is AD Connect. So this AD Connect is giving us the facility for synchronizing between on-premises So this is basically working as a bridge between the identities from on-prem and AD. With the help of this, we are giving all the users to manage and access with a single identity for the on-prem applications, for the Azure AD applications. So here in the Active Directory, if you see, we can manage users. And if you see the list of the users, we can manage that these are the directory synced identities, or these are the identities which are created. We can also see this is a guest member, this is a guest identity, or this is a member identity. So these things also we can manage in the Azure AD. We can also have a facility to manage the users which we have deleted. We can also see the sign-in logs, as I was discussing the point that who is accessing, what kind of activities are happening. All these kind of things we want to manage in terms of securing the resources which we have. So we can manage the signing logs for the identities, and we can identify the patterns if we are facing any challenge in seeing the sign-in log. So when we talk about the sign-in log, all kind of activities and the access which are happening in our organization related to the sign-in, we can find out from the sign-in logs which are available. We can also check, and I'll just go back to the main portal. Just a minute. We can also create groups and we can manage the permissions which we have. We also have an option to manage roles and administrators. Now, why it is important to have roles and administrators? Because the user which we have in our platform, the user which are coming and accessing the resources, we need to give them least privileged access. We need to give them just enough access, which is required to complete their own task, their designated task, for which they are hired for. They want to work on a specified project. For that project, they need to access certain resources. So just give permissions for accessing those resources only. So that kind of restrictions we can manage, we can follow with the help of the rules and regulations, the rules and the administrators which we are creating. If you see, let's say, for example, application developer. So we need to give certain permissions which are related to the application developer, in which we want to manage the applications which are created and managed. So we can manage these permissions with the help of roles and assignments which we have. We can assign these roles and responsibilities to the user. So it is a very simple click way through which we can manage the roles and responsibilities. So application developer can create application registration independent of the user can register application setting. So we have certain descriptions for the roles. These are the built-in roles which we have. Now the question comes, can we have this capability of creating our own custom roles? Yes. So Azure is also providing this facility to create custom roles, in which we can design the permissions which we want. So if you see, these are the list of permissions which are given, and these are the permissions which are helping us in giving the access to the resources, and these resources will be accessed with the just enough access. So let's say we want to give, and we want to create a role for applications. So we can check that what all permissions we have which are related to the applications. So in this, if you see, we can have update the owner property of application policies, read application policies which are applied. So we can specify the permissions which we require, and we can assign and we can create a specific role which is having a set of permissions which we want to give, if we are not satisfied with the built-in roles which are available. So that we can manage with the custom roles and all. We also have an application registration. So as I was discussing, that we need a service through which we can manage a secure access to the application. When we are talking about the authentication and the authorization process, we want that the applications which we are running, they should also be running in a very secure manner. So whatever applications we have, we can register those applications. We can also manage the access of the applications that we want these applications to be accessed by the single tenant only. We want these applications to be accessed by the multiple tenant. We want these applications to be accessed by multi-tenant and the personal accounts. Like if any application is like the Skype or Xbox, so we need to have these kind of identities, those who will be accessing that application. Also, we can have specific applications which are requiring only personal account. So we can manage these things when we are registering the application. So I will show you the once the application is registered. So I've created these applications to show you demo. So if you see in this, we can manage the branding of the application, authentication of the application, and if we have any certificates or any secrets which are related to application, we can manage that. Also, we can manage the application permissions. So API permissions also we can manage, that we are delegating user.read API permission. We can also see that we have the facility to manage the single sign-on also. When we are talking about cloud security, we also want to maintain a seamless experience for the users for sign-in as well. So we have a facility to configure single sign-on also when we are registering the applications. I'll show you that. These are the pre-integrated applications. So let's say we have a Cisco AnyConnect application. So here we have the facility to manage conditional access. We have facility to manage single sign-on. We have facility to provision user accounts as well. So we can manage and set up single sign-on. For this, we can manage an integration that is SAML-based, OpenID Connect, WSPAT, so and linked identity. So we can manage these kind of things if our application is giving that facility to us. So if we check the single sign-on, we have three options which are available. Right now it is disabled, SAML based or link based. So this Cisco application is giving us two options to integrate with a single sign-on. Also, we have an option again to manage roles and administrator, like who can access the application, that also we can manage with the help of roles which we have created in the Azure AD. We can assign these roles to the users, we can assign these roles to the application owners, and based on that, application data and applications are going to access the data. Okay. The point which we have is conditional access. So in the conditional access, what we are managing is, I'll just give you one example with the help of a diagram. So let's say we have a user who is trying to access from its machine. Now this user is sending a signal. To Azure AD that I want to sign in. Now this sign in request is sent to Azure AD, and we are talking about single sign-on. Integration of single sign-on where user is providing the authentication detail, or let's say you have MFA. So these information user is providing once. Once AD is sending a secure token, then user will be able to access the applications which are available. All kind of application which are there in the environment, and we have assigned these applications to the user, and user has access to these applications. So we are giving access to the users for these applications. And when we have integrated single sign-on, it means this user is able to access from Azure AD registration. User is able to access all applications which are available in the environment with this sign-in only. There is no extra sign-in which is required to access the application. Now, in this case, one point is important, that we are giving user a user-friendly environment and a seamless experience where user is giving its credentials, its authentication detail once, but then user is able to access multiple applications. But in this scenario, again, we can have a use case where we have another application. This application is having a data which is very critical in nature, and we don't want any unauthorized access to this application. Now, when this request is coming for access to this application, we want to re-authenticate this request, that this request is again coming from a legit user. So what we want is, we want to again re-authenticate this request. And how we can manage this re-authentication? That we can manage by applying CAP. That is conditional access policy. So we can have this CAP enable on this application, and based upon the request which is coming, that it is coming from which user, it is coming from which device, it is coming from which location, it is coming from which application. Application A can also try to access the data from the application 2. So we can have n number of signals which are coming. And based on these signals, we can take the decision, and CAP will be enabled. And CAP will take the decision that we are allowing access to the user. If we are allowing access, we can also manage that we are allowing this access, plus we want the user to reset the password before accessing this application, or we want user to go for a multi-factor authentication, or we are directly going to block this access if it is coming from a non-registered device or non-joined device. So these things we can manage with the help of CAP. And this is, I think that a very, very important feature which Azure is giving for maintaining the secure access to the application. Also, if we see and we talk about MFA, so that is also a feature which is provided for giving a secure access to the identities, that whenever an identity is trying to access, we know that if we only have username and password combination, that is a traditional way of authentication. In this method, in this way, if password is compromised, any other person who is having access to the password will be able to gain access to the environment. But if we have different factors, like one factor is something you know, another factor something you have, you can have phone, you can have keys. So something you have and something you possess. So we can use certain biometric techniques. And why not to have a combination of these factors? And now Azure is giving us the facility to entirely go passwordless by using these sign-on methods which we have. So I'll just show you the methods. So if you see these sign-in methods which we have in our accounts, so these are the options which are available in our devices itself. So we can manage, we can go with the Windows Hello Face, we can go with the security key, we can entirely go from password to passwordless. Again, the password-led scenario is more secure because you are not giving any clue for the attackers. No password is available, how to track back to your account and identity. So that is also a very secure way which is available in the cloud environment. Now, if we talk about a very important point that I have mentioned, which is about the compliance. Monitoring, we have seen. Encryption also I will share. So in compliance, if we see, we have Microsoft Defender for Cloud, which was earlier known as a security center. Now it is renamed with Microsoft Defender for Cloud. In this Defender for Cloud, if we see, we have a secure score, which is right now showing on my screen. We have regulatory compliance. We have workload protection. We have firewall manager, inventory, information protection, and lot more things. So if we talk about the compliance and the other issues, so Microsoft Defender for Cloud is providing cloud security posture management plus cloud workload protection. So in this, Microsoft Defender for Cloud is giving us the facility to manage and work on the compliances on which you want to follow. So if you see this as a responsibility of the cloud service provider, we have by default cloud security policy, which is a benchmark policy, which is already enabled. So the minimum requirement which we have to maintain the security of cloud infrastructure, that will be enforced, and based on that, our recommendations will be given. So what are those recommendations? Network security recommendations, that you should have network segmentation boundaries, you should deploy DDoS protection policy, and that is also very, very strong policy when we talk about security, because we know the strength and the space of DDoS attacks, which are talking about compromising large number of systems and then they are attacking the target. That also we can manage and implement with Azure platform. We can also manage these recommendations which are related to privileged access, in which we can manage the privilege access PIM roles which we have, that we can manage. So all kind of recommendations which are related on Azure security benchmark, and also the Center for Information Security, which has given top 20 control to manage the security in the infrastructure. So these things we can manage. Also, we can have our own policies also in this. We can add our own policies. So we can manage compliance and policies. We can add our own policies also. I'll show you. So these are the two options. One is for cloud security posture management, where we have a continuous assessment and security recommendations, and the secure score will be generated based upon the healthy resources and the total number of resources ratio. Then we have option to enable Microsoft Defender for Cloud Plan, in which we want to have security for all the endpoints we have. So that also we can manage by enabling Microsoft Defender for Cloud, in which we have just-in-time VM access, we have adaptive application control, regulatory compliance dashboard and reports. So what we can manage in this, we can manage all these options. And if you see the pricing that is coming for Microsoft Defender for Cloud Plan, but for the recommendations, there is no charge. Recommendations you will be getting based on the benchmark policy. But then you can add on other policies also which are required for your organization. So this was the environmental security, but if I'll show you the compliance policies which we can manage. So these are the policy settings which we have. So here we have a default initiative, which is cloud security center default policy. That is a benchmark policy. Also, as I was discussing, that we can have a compliance like PCI DSS, we can have ISO 27001, and we can add more standards which are required by our organization. And let's say you want to add your compliance and standard, plus you want to have your own custom policies and initiatives also which you have created. So you can group the policies, you can create an initiative, and then you can assign that as well. So that facility also that is provided by Azure service provider. So if you see this, you can have your own custom initiative also. So what is an initiative? When you are clubbing the number of policies, that is creating an initiative. So that custom initiative also we have an option to add, and we have an option to manage. Now let's talk about one more important aspect which Azure is providing to us about disk encryption and encryption of the storage. So I'll just show you the Okay, so when you are creating any database, when you have your storage available with you, so in that case, you have an option to manage the encryption of the data. So let's say I'm using this storage. So in the storage itself, we have an option to manage encryption, and we also have an option to manage shared access. Let's say you have created any project, you have created a project or in which you want to share your resources, and you don't want to share those resources publicly. So what you can do is you can create a shared access signature, and you can share those signatures and links with the other members of that project. But again, you want to give those links for a limited period of time. That also you can manage. Here we can manage the encryption, and these are the services which are available to manage data at the rest. So we can manage these services by enabling always encrypted option. We can manage customer managed keys, and we can store these keys in the key vault also. So we can also provide security to manage a secrets, certificates, keys in the another locker which we have in the cloud, that is key vault. That also we can manage. We also have a scopes of the encryption which we can provide. Right now it's not working in my system. I'll show you the secure access signature also, how that will work. Okay, that is not available in this demo account. Okay, so I'll take you to one more area where I will show you that how we can manage those things, and then we will close this session. So we have a log analytics workspace where we can add on the data connectors, and at a single place we can get the entire log. So before going to that, I'll show you one more thing. So in the Azure Active Directory, if you go and if you see the monitoring option, you will be getting the monitoring sign-in logs, you will be getting audit logs, you will be getting the analytics of your logs. So all kind of activities which are happening, that is coming in the audit log. Also, you have an option to manage users and insights. What kind of applications are used most of the time in your organization? All these things, what are the details related to this application, everything related to this particular application and the activity will be coming as a log to you, so that you can manage. And also we have a monitor service which will help us and giving us the facility to monitor everything from a single place. So you see, we can get the insight on the applications, we can get the insights on the virtual machine storage account. So we have all those resources on which we can get the insight. We can manage alerts, we can create alerts also, we can add on these alerts with the action group, so that If any event is happening, the action can be taken. We can manage the health of the service, we can manage workbook, and we can take the help of Microsoft Sentinel, which is a SIM as a service, and SOAR, that is security orchestration and automated response. So in this case, we can create a Sentinel and then we have an option to add on the connector. So what we can do is I'll just go to this board and I'll show you. That is the last topic which I'm taking. Okay. We have Azure Active Directory. We have another cloud on which our data is hosted. We have applications. What we are doing is we have a log analytics workspace. Now this log analytic workspace is a place where all kind of logs are coming. So all kind of logs like database, resources, your virtual machine, every kind of log, every kind of activity is coming to you. Now that is coming to Sentinel, and the Sentinel is sitting on top of the log analytics workspace, which is giving us the facility to manage information and event management plus orchestration of the automated response. So when we have multiple logs which are coming to us, together we can get a top view of all, and based on the logs which we are getting, we can create an automated response. And orchestration means we are getting a log from different services, from different resources. So we can orchestrate those things and then we can automate the response. And all kind of information and the event we can manage from Sentinel. So I think these are the services which are very, very important for all the organizations which are provided by Azure platform. So in this session, we discussed about the Azure services, like we discussed about the Azure Active Directory, we discussed about the encryption techniques which are available with the storage and database. We discussed about the application security. For application security, also we have a very, very important portal which is rich with a lot of services, that is Microsoft Cloud Application Security Portal, but that is known as a Microsoft Defender for Cloud Application now. It is also renamed. So MCAS is basically based on the CASB solution, which is Cloud Application Security Broker technique, which is securing the application. So in which we can discover the application, we can manage the application, we can identify the risk rules of the applications. So we discussed about the services which are related to application security. We discussed about the monitoring services which are available, like we have a monitor which will help us in identifying and collecting the logs and the analytics. We have Microsoft Defender for Cloud. We discussed about Microsoft Sentinel. We discussed about the Microsoft Defender, which is helping us in the managing all the protection of the workloads, because we have cloud security posture management plus cloud security workload protection. We also discussed that we can go and we can manage the compliance. In the compliance, we can have other regulatory and the compliance and the standards. We can add on our own custom initiative as well. In the authentication and authorization, we discussed about MFA, we discussed about CAP, we discussed about the identities which we can manage and which we can have, we discussed about the groups. So all these kind of services are helping us in securing the cloud infrastructure. We can be very, very sure that whatever data, whatever resources we have on our cloud are going to be safe, are going to be accessed by the secure and the legit users only. So that's all about cloud security, which I have discussed with the help of the Azure platform. Maybe in the coming sessions, if Joey is going to invite me, I'll be sharing more services which are available from the other cloud providers as well. So that's all, Joey, from my side. If you have anything to add on, or if you have any question, please let me know. or you all can connect with me on LinkedIn also if you want to discuss more about these services. If you want to learn more about these services, you can contact me on LinkedIn. And thank you so much for watching this. That's it from my side.